Good evening, everyone. My name is Austin Brass. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions here at Daemen University. Thank you for joining us for our virtual financial aid night tonight. If you're in the Western New York area, I hope you're getting ready for snowpocalypse for 2022. I'm looking outside my window. I don't see any snow yet, but for those of you in the southern tier, I know you're already getting hit with it. For those of you from out of the area, welcome to Buffalo. So tonight, the goal for tonight is for you to learn more about the financial aid process and learn a little about financial aid here at Daemen, as well as our scholarship process here. I'm joined by Jeffrey Pagano, who's our Director of Financial Aid, who will go over the financial aid process with you. To give you an overview of what tonight will entail, I'll speak for about a couple minutes here tonight, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff, and he'll talk for about 40 minutes about the financial aid process and also give a little insight to the financial aid process here to Daemen. But before we begin with the financial aid, I kind of want to go over a little bit about the admissions process here at Daemen. So if you haven't applied yet to Daemen, it's A-OK. We take applications at any time. We're rolling admissions currently. So that means you can apply at any point, and with a completed application, we'll turn around your application in about 1 to 3 weeks at this time of year. A completed application here at Daemen includes your application, which can be found on the common application or the Daemen application. We have no preference between the two. The common application is a singular application, which can go to over 1,200 different schools. So think about it as you can apply to do one application and send it to as many schools. There's so many schools that are on it, especially in the Western New York region. It does take a little bit more time. So if you're just looking at Daemen, I highly encourage the Daemen application. It's a little less laborious, but it only goes to Daemen. Also, with your application, we require a high school transcript, college activity, or excuse me, high school activities, and your college essay. Letters of recommendation are optional, but highly encouraged here at Daemen. And for our one program, our physician assistant program, we do require 2 letters of recommendation. And for all of our art programs, we do require an art portfolio to be submitted. All accepted students here at Daemen do get a merit-based scholarship. So every accepted student will receive a scholarship ranging from $7,000 to $12,500 a year. In addition to that, we have a ton of other scholarships we give students, from leadership grants to residential grants. If you take classes through a BOCES, if you have a sibling who goes to Daemen, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to scholarships. And if you're interested in even more scholarships, including full tuition scholarships, I highly encourage you to come to Scholars Day in February. Our top 3 levels of our scholarship students are invited to Scholars Day in February, which is the opportunity to interview for 10 trustee scholarships, as well as all of our endowed scholarships that are eligible to first-year students. The trustee scholarships are 10 scholarships in particular, 2 full tuition scholarships, and then we have $17,000 scholarships and $15,000 scholarships as well. And then also after that, we have a ton of other scholarships we give out after that. We try to make it as affordable as possible for you to come here to Daemen. If you have any questions, I highly encourage you to put them in the chat. As Jeff goes through his presentation, I'll be keeping tabs of the questions, and after his presentation, we'll go through all of them. So if you have any admissions questions or questions specific to financial aid, I encourage you to make sure you put them in the chat. Our goal tonight, and for us hosting this event, is to make sure you have an opportunity to ask any questions you have regarding the financial aid process or the admissions process here at Daemen. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jeffrey Pagano, who will go over our financial aid presentation for you tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming out to learn more about the financial aid process. What I'm going to talk about tonight, probably not 40 minutes like Austin said, maybe a little shorter than that, but I'm just going to go over the general financial aid process. We're going to talk a little bit about the FAFSA application, the different funding sources. I'm going to do a little bit of a cost comparison between a private institution and a public institution, and also the financial aid timeline, what to expect in the future. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen now, the presentation. Okay, so when we talk about the financial aid process, it all begins with the FAFSA application. By definition, it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Basically, this is the application the federal government uses and the institution uses to determine all of your federal aid and your institutional grants, scholarships, loan programs, work programs. In terms of a FAFSA timeline, for you folks, to 2023-24 FAFSA, you can complete it anytime after October 1st. So it's time to start completing it now. You're going to be using tax information from 2021. And this applies to students who are going to be starting this fall 2023. FAFSA is completed online at fafsa.gov. Both the student and at least one parent will need what's called an FSA ID. It's basically your electronic signature to complete FAFSA. When we talk about the sources of financial aid, I think if I were to ask you folks, what's financial aid, most of you are going to say the grants and scholarships, and that's true. But financial aid is also made up of loan programs and work opportunities. And aid comes in two categories. It's either merit-based aid or need-based aid, and they're very different. Merit-based aid is some sort of scholarship or grant that's based on something other than financial need. So like Austin said before, when you apply through admissions, you're going to be eligible for some sort of a merit-based academic scholarship. Again, that's a form of merit-based aid. Another good example would be an athletic scholarship.
Jeff, not to interrupt you, but the presentation's only showing the slide. It's not showing the presentation right now.
Yeah, you can't. Do you see anything, Austin?
I see the presentation, like how it's not in presentation view. It's just a slide deck.
It is on my screen. Let me. I'm going to try opening it again. How about now, Austin?
I see. If you put that in full screen, and then I think it'll be. If you share the presentation window, I think you'll be good.
Yeah, it is in full screen. Can they still see everything? Is it okay to continue on the way it is? On mine, it's in full screen.
I would say I'd stop presenting. And just go with the PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's full screen for me. I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
Go to present first, and then share that screen that comes up from that.
Can you see what I see, Austin, right now?
Right now, I don't see a presentation.
Okay. I'm going to try to start the process again. And now it's gone.
Well, hold on a sec as we fix this. We'll try and get this presentation so it's a presentation screen and not just the actual computer screen that y'all were looking at. As we wait, if you have any questions in the chat, I'll be happy to answer anything when it comes to admission stuff as well. Well, as we wait for Jeff. Lisa asked, do students have to be invited to Scholars Day, or is it open to everyone? So Scholars Day is invitation only, but we do invite a good portion of our students to Scholars Day. So student invitations will start going out later this month for Scholars Day. I encourage you to get the application in soon, or at least get started. The big difference between the application for admission and the application for Scholars Day is just an extra essay that's specific to the Scholars Day application. Brian asks, how long is the turnaround once an application is submitted? So if you applied early decision, you should be receiving your decision anytime within the next 4 days. If you are applying rolling admissions, we're kind of going through those right now. So if it's the bulk of what we're doing right now is, so probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Jeff, do you want to just share your screen? We'll roll with it how you had it.
I'm trying to do that again. Okay, I'm gonna do it's full screen on my screen. Okay, is it better? Full screen on my screen. Okay, is it better?
I'm there. I see it now. I see it. We'll just go with it how you have it right now. You're in the close out one of the live stream boxes. You're in it twice, so you're giving feedback.
Not working.
So I'll keep going through questions as Jeff gets his presentation ready. What are other opportunities is there for kids who don't get anything from FAFSA? It's a great question. So one of the things we do here is we give out all of our scholarships through merit-based, and then what we do after that is if you go to Scholars Day and you're still looking for additional aid, we do have an opportunity for you to go through a financial aid appeal, which allows you then to have us look at your financial aid package through a committee-based, which there's definitely additional aid that we give through there. We also have endowed scholarships as well as scholarships we give through the admissions office. As most students, some students will qualify for a 716 grant, which is a $3,000 scholarship as well. That's in addition. So there's a lot of different ways for students to get scholarships, additional aid, no matter what their EFC is. It's a great question.
Are you better now, Austin?
I see it. Yeah, you can go. You can start from there.
Okay, I'm just gonna. This is where we left off. Okay, so we talked about the merit and need-based aid. How do we go about receiving aid? You need to fill out your FAFSA application. You need to have your high school diploma or your GED. You need to be enrolled or accepted for enrollment in some sort of a degree or certificate program. Before you receive a financial aid package, you must be accepted to the institution. You can certainly complete your FAFSA application before you're accepted, but you won't receive an aid package until you're actually accepted. Financial aid system, it's a partnership between the funding source. That funding source is the federal government, obviously the college itself, and it also assumes that parents are going to help pay towards those expenses to the extent they are able. In terms of eligibility for aid, some of the bigger items they're going to be looking at on FAFSA would be the parent and student income, assets, savings, investments, family size, age and number of working parents, number of children in college. That plays a big factor. Do you have 1, 2, or 3 going to school at the same time? FAFSA takes that into account. Your financial need can be impacted. So All of that information that you supply in your FAFSA is going to be used to calculate something called an expected family contribution, or EFC number. That EFC number can be as low as zero, or it can be several $100,000. The lower your FAFSA EFC, the greater your financial need. So if you have a zero FAFSA EFC, you're a very, very needy student. All of that process, that information is sent both to the student and the institution. Basically, you as a student will have access to your FAFSA information online through your student aid report. And the way the institution receives that information is through the ISA report, or Institution Student Information Record. So in terms of defining financial need, this is the federal methodology. It's basically cost of attendance minus EFC equals need. Here?
No, just do this one. And just click from here.
Okay. Okay, so the definition of financial need is cost of attendance minus FAFSA EFC equals financial need. And the variable from institution to institution is not the EFC, it's the cost of attendance. Obviously, some schools are more expensive than others. That EFC is going to be the same. If you put 2 or 3 or 4 schools on your FAFSA application, they're all going to receive that same EFC number. So what's cost of attendance made up of? It's made up of what I call fixed costs, costs that you're actually going to be billed for. Tuition and fees, you're going to be billed for tuition and fees. Room and board, if you're living on campus, you'll be billed for room and board. We also build in dollars for books and supplies, personal expense, and transportation expense. You're not going to get necessarily a bill for transportation or personal expenses, but you're going to need to account for those when you go to school. So let's talk a little bit about the grant sources. This is the gift aid. This is the aid that does not have to be paid back. This is the good funding. You may be eligible for something called a federal grant called a Pell Grant. Okay, Pell Grants are geared towards very needy students with low FAFSA EFCs. For example, the max Pell currently is at $6,895. If you came in with a 0 FAFSA EFC and you were a full-time undergraduate student, you would see an award of $6,895 on your Pell Grant. You may also be eligible for an SEOG grant. Our max this year is about $1,000. Again, you have to be Pell eligible in order to be eligible for an SEOG grant, but it doesn't guarantee that eligibility. You may also be eligible for a New York State grant. Some of us may have heard of TAP. It's the Tuition Assistance Program. The max TAP award currently is at $5,665. TAP is based on 2 things. It's based on New York State residents going to New York State institutions. Typically under net taxable income under $80,000, you start to become TAP eligible. And then of course we have institutional grants, both merit-based and need-based. I'll talk more about those in a second. And also private grants and scholarships in the private sector. Loan programs. Obviously, loans need to be paid back. There's several different types. There's something called the Direct Stafford Loan, Direct Parent Plus Loan, and Private Alternative Loans. These are all federal loan programs. Private alternative loans are through private lenders. In terms of the Direct Federal Stafford Loan Program, when we talk about student loans, guaranteed student loans, this is the program that we're talking about. This loan comes in 2 formats, and this is very important to understand. This loan will be either subsidized or unsubsidized. And we're going to break that down on your financial aid award letter. If the loan is subsidized, that loan is filling financial need, and the interest on that loan is paid for by the federal government while you're in school. If the loan is unsubsidized, it's falling out of financial need, and the big difference with this one is that the interest accrues while you're in school. The loan limits, they haven't changed in quite some time. As a first-year undergraduate, you may be eligible for a maximum of $3,500 subsidized plus $2,000 unsubsidized. So you will see a total of $5,500 as a first-year student, assuming you've done your FAFSA application, and it can come either subsidized, unsubsidized, or a combination of both. As you progress academically, year two, you may be eligible for an additional $1,000, $4,500 on the subsidized loan, plus $2,000 on sub, total $6,500. And then for years 3 and 4, junior, senior year, you're at $5,500 plus $2,000, total of $7,500. In terms of interest rates on these loans, they are fixed at currently at 4.99%. Every July 1st, the interest rates are reassessed through the federal government. Right now, again, they're at 4.99. If you go on to grad school down the road, the interest rates are currently at 6.54%. These loans are deferred while you're in school, so you do not have to pay them back while you're in school. There's also another type of loan. This is a federal loan for the parents of that dependent undergraduate student. It's called a Parent Plus loan. So this may be one option that parents utilize to help pay the bill. Big difference here, the parent is now the borrower. This is also a creditworthy loan, so parents have to apply and be credit approved. Everything is done at one-stop shop called through studentaid.gov. The current interest rate on this loan is currently at 7.54%. And again, every July 1st, they get reassessed. And then lastly, on the loan options are what we call private alternative loans. These are still educational loans, but now these are loans through private lenders. Students typically have to apply for these. There's a credit check on these loans. Most traditional students cannot get these loans approved on their own. They do need a cosigner or a co-applicant. Obviously, that could be a parent, but doesn't have to be a parent. So the big difference with this loan is that it's a creditworthy loan. You have to apply. There's a credit check. And also the interest rates on these loans will vary based on credit risk. And then the last type of financial aid would be some sort of a work opportunity. So this is where students may work on campus to help pay some of those costs. We have two programs at Daemen. One called the Federal Work Study Program, which is more need-based. Typically, if students work on campus, they typically work up to 10 hours per week. They get paid bi-weekly. They get paid minimum wage. Daemen Work Program is another work program we offer at Daemen. That's probably more geared towards a student who, let's say, in year one was offered federal work study based on their FAFSA application, and something happened in year two where their financial needs changed. Maybe they weren't eligible for federal work study. That department may hire them back potentially under what they call Daemen Work Program. So let's talk a little bit about those merit-based academic scholarships that Austin referenced before. These are all determined through the admissions office. We have several different award names and award levels, the trustee scholarship, the president's scholarship, the founder's scholarship. Again, these are all merit-based. And the key point here is you want to understand that these scholarships are renewable. So what does that mean, renewability? So basically, if you come into a 4-year program, these scholarships are going to renew for the duration of that program for all 4 years, as long as you maintain full-time status, and there is a cumulative GPA requirement that will vary depending on which scholarship you were offered. Again, we have additional scholarships, the Dean's Scholarship at $10,000, the Distinguished Faculty at $8,500, and the Alumni Scholarship at $7,000. And again, these are all going to be determined when you apply and get accepted through the admissions office. We also offer a visual arts scholarship through the art department. They usually select 2 recipients this year for an additional $5,000 award. We have an academic achievement scholarship and esports scholarships. And Daemen is an NCAA Division II institution, so we are able to offer significant athletic scholarships, all the way from, let's say, a couple $1,000s all the way up to full tuition, room and board, and books. So Daemen also offers what's called a DU grant, or Daemen University grant. This is our need-based grant. Okay, this grant is going to be determined by the financial aid office. Okay, and we're going to utilize that information on your FAFSA application to determine your financial need and your eligibility for these additional need-based DU grants. So let's talk a little bit about private versus public again, and we're going to talk about those costs and budgets that we talked about on one of the previous slides. Cost of attendance based on tuition fees, books, transportation, personal expense, and room and board. You can see at the private institution, the tuition at $32,090 compared to $7270. So there's obviously a big difference there. Fees at $670 compared to $3454. The public institutions typically have much higher mandatory fees. Books, $1,000 for both. Transportation, about $700. Personal expense, $800, and room and board, pretty close, $13,600 compared to $15,400. So you see the total cost of attendance or financially above budget at the private for a student living on campus is at $48,890 compared to $28,676 at the public institution. So obviously there's a big difference there, primarily in reference to the tuition cost. So let's use this as an example. We have the private resident student versus public. We just determined their cost of attendance or budget on the previous slide, $48,890 compared to $28,600. And in this case, the student completed their FAFSA and they had an EFC of $574. So that's a pretty low EFC. Remember, the lower your EFC, the higher your financial need. In this case, using our formula to determine financial need, we're at 48,316 compared to 28,100 on the public. So there's a big difference there. The second example, this student completed their FAFSA and they had a very high EFC at $31,000. Okay, so that's fairly high. So their financial need is going to be much less. There's still some financial need at the private institution at $17,890, but there's none at the public institution. So this is an example of what the financial aid packages may have looked like. This is an example of that high needs student with that real low FAFSA EFC. So at the private school, we had TAP at $5,000 at the private and $4,000 at the public. New York State TAP is going to give you a little more money to attend a more expensive school in New York State. That low EFC, you can see on the Pell Grant, would have netted that student $6,345 at both the private and the public. We also awarded SCOG of $1,000 across the board, work study, and the merit scholarship at the private is typically going to be much higher than at the public school. In this case, 11,000 versus 2,500, and that would have been based on the same grades that you submitted to the admissions office. This is a very needy student, so we see the max subsidy on the loan, the subsidized Stafford loan at $3,500 at both public and private. And in this case, we also have the unsubsidized Stafford loan at $2,000. Now, since there was more financial need at the private institution, that institution also kicked in an additional $10,500 on the need-based grant. We had more financial need to meet. So you can see the total package worth $43,400 compared to $23,400. Obviously, there's a big difference there. Remaining balance about $5,400 and $5,200. So in this case, the student had significant financial need, and the cost is relatively the same for both the private and the public. Now, this second example, this was that student with very low need. If you recall, I think the FAFSA EFC was $31,000 or $32,000. So there's not much financial need for this student. So we see a big difference in their aid packages, more zeros in this case. They're not eligible for TAP, Pell, SEOG, or federal work study, but they're still eligible for that merit scholarship. In this case, the $11,000 and the $2,500. And the reason why they're still eligible for that, even though there's no financial need, is because that merit scholarship is not based on need. It's based on, in this case, academic merit through admissions. The private institution, in this case, the student was eligible for a subsidized Stafford loan of $3,500, where we didn't see any of that loan subsidy at the public institution, primarily because we're filling much less financial need. So in this case, the total value of the aid package was at $17,300 compared to $8,000. So the remaining balance was $31,500 compared to $20,600. In this case, it would cost you more to attend the private institution. So for many of you, there's going to be some sort of a remaining balance on your student bill. So what are your options? There's basically three options. Option one would be to pay the bill out of pocket. That may be difficult for many families. Okay. In many cases, they just can't pay that out of pocket expense. Another option would be some sort of a payment plan. At Daemen, we offer several payment plans. You can spread out your semester bill over 5 payments. And when you get billed, you're going to be billed by semester. So your fall semester, you could spread over 5 payments. And then when you get billed again during the spring semester, you could spread that over 5 payments. So you can basically spread out the entire academic year over 10 payments. And the third option would be some sort of an additional loan option. And we talked a little bit about these, the Parent Plus loan, the federal loan for the parents, or private alternative loans where the student would apply, typically with a co-applicant. So, or you could utilize a combination of these options. You may, let's say your bill is $5,000 and you're able to pay $3,000 out of pocket. You can go on a payment plan for the remainder of the $2,000 or look at additional loans for that remaining balance. In terms of next steps, your timeline, right now we are in fall winter. So we just started sending financial aid award letters out last week. So if you've done your FAFSA, you should be receiving that award letter, assuming you've been accepted to Daemen very shortly. We do ask that you sign and return that award letter. You can do that several different ways, either via mail, email, through our fax, or through our secure upload system. You're also going to be making your tuition and housing deposits. And if asked, you're going to be returning any additional paperwork requested by the financial aid office. Some of your FAFSAs will be selected for a process called verification, where we have to request some additional information. You're also going to be completing your TAP application if you didn't already do so when you submitted your FAFSA. Spring summer timeline. Okay, this is when you're going to start thinking about, you know, how much do you owe and what are my options going to be? Am I going to be looking at taking out additional loans? You may be exploring the Parent Plus loan at that point. Those are all done through what we call studentaid.gov. It's basically the one-stop shop for federal aid. You may also be exploring private loan options. This is also a time where if you change your housing status or enrollment status, it's very important that you contact the financial aid office. When you complete your FAFSA application, one of the questions they're going to ask is, what are your housing intentions? Are you going to be living on campus as a resident student? Are you going to be living off campus or commuting from mom and dad's house? It's very important. When we package your financial aid, we're going to utilize that information and send you an aid package based on your residency status, either living on campus, commuting, or living off campus. So we want to make sure we have that right. Your financial need can change significantly based on whether you're living on campus or off campus, because we're going to build in those large room and board costs. For many of you, you're going to be a first-time loan borrower, so this is going to be the time when you're going to be completing 2 items through studentaid.gov. We, in the financial aid office, we like for you to complete this process before you start school in the fall. You have to complete 2 items. One is called a direct loan master promissory note. It's basically your contract for your federal loans. You're going to complete this one time as a first-time student. And then loans that you take out either sophomore, junior, senior year, they're going to automatically attach onto that contract. You're also going to complete something called student loan entrance counseling. This is basically the federal government's way of educating you on your loan responsibility and so on and so forth. When you get ready to graduate, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, depending on your program, you're going to complete what's called student loan entrance exit counseling at the same website, where they're going to start preparing you for repayment. Also, this is a good time to start looking at outside scholarship opportunities. Many of you are going to pursue those. There's several different websites out there. My only recommendation is if you get into a website that wants to charge you a fee for that service, it's probably fraudulent, so I would get out of that. If you do obtain some sort of an outside scholarship, it's important that you notify the financial aid office, basically for two reasons. If we're aware of this scholarship, we can actually add that into your financial aid package. We also want to check to make sure that it doesn't impact any other pieces of your financial aid. So a couple of quick recommendations as we wrap up this piece. Again, applying for outside scholarships. We talked about doing that in the private sector. Remember to apply for student aid every year. Your eligibility can change from year to year, depending on your family circumstances. You have to complete FAFSA every year, and we're going to basically send you a new financial aid award letter every year outlining your eligibility. And then lastly, if you're asked for federal verification, about 16, 17% of your FAFSAs are selected for verification. When that happens, we may request some additional information from you. We just ask that you react to that request. So I think this is the point when we're going to go into the Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks, Jeff. So if now, after Jeff has completed his presentation, feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions. Jeff and I will stick on here and answer all the questions that come through for us. Going back to right before the presentation started, can you clarify what Scholars presentation is in February? Sure. So Scholars Day is in middle of February, the day before the Super Bowl this year. So go Bills. But what it will be, excuse me, will be an opportunity for students to come on campus and interview for a trustee scholarship. So part of the Scholars Day process is filling out a Scholars Day application, which is most of the stuff you've already filled out for our general application plus an additional essay. And then by doing that application, you're automatically invited to campus to interview for Scholars Day, which is the opportunity then to earn one of our trustee scholarships as well as our endowed scholarships. The next question.
Are you just going to ask them?
I'll ask him. This one's for you, Jeff.
Okay.
FAFSA numbers be updated. What is the time when it has to be firmed up?
Sure. Yes, you can make corrections to your FAFSA. You do that online through your student aid report. If you've got an update, you can make that. When that happens, your FAFSA gets reprocessed and updated, and that information is electronically sent to Daemen. And if it warrants a revision to your financial aid, we would send you a revised award letter. In terms of a time frame, if you've got a correction, you can update that anytime.
What is the minimum GPA to get into Daemen? So we holistically review all of our applications. So I can't say there's a minimum GPA to get into Daemen, as well as we have the Higher Education Opportunity Program, which is designed for students who may not have the required GPA or financial resources to get into Daemen as well. I would say on average, depending on the we're also program specific. So you can apply directly into the programs that you would like to go into here at Daemen, and certain programs are different than others. Our physician assistant program is probably our most selective program here on campus, and the average GPA to get in there was about a 96 average, a mid-range from about 94 to 98 last year. If you're looking to come as an undecided student or exploratory student, the GPA changes for that as well. So those ranges could be anywhere from an 80 high school GPA to and above for that. But the big thing to keep in mind here, regardless what your GPA is that we look at everything with your application. So your application's read twice. And then we look at your activities, we look at your essay, and everything like that. So I would say, regardless what your high school GPA is to apply, because regardless if you get in as a first-year student, we'd love to have you as a transfer student or graduate student down the line as well. Brian asks, when you receive your acceptance letter, is the financial aid package with that included, or does that come later? Jeff, you want to answer that one?
Sure. You're going to receive your acceptance letter separately, and the financial aid package will come later. It will probably come very quick, assuming you've done your FAFSA. Once you're accepted, we package on a rolling basis. So you will receive a separate financial aid award letter outlining all of your aid eligibility.
How late can you apply for Scholars Day or applications online? Great question. So the application for Scholars Day will open up relatively shortly. They will be online for your through your student portal. You can apply through the end, pretty much by the end of January. January 20th is the deadline to apply for Scholars Day this upcoming year. So if you haven't applied to Daemen, I would recommend getting your application in no later than the Christmas break. So you have plenty of time for us to review your application and then also for you to do your Scholars Day essay. Aiden asks, if during the application process I choose not to join the Scholars Program and submit my application, can I join the Scholars Program now after I've been accepted? I'm assuming you said Scholars Day, so you won't get that until the end of this month for the Scholars Day. We were talking about the Honors Program. All you would have to do is email your admissions counselor that you would like to be considered for the Honors Program, and you would be put in for review for our Honors Program. So the biggest thing I would say to students looking at the Honors Program, it's enrichment in college. The honors doesn't always mean better when it comes to college. So it's meant for students who are looking for graduate school, looking to go deeper into the things they're studying. You do get an honors distinction on your degree, but a lot of the coursework you're doing is designed to do more in-depth study and a lot more research per se. If you were accepted early decision, can you still apply for Scholars Day? Yes. The caveat with early decision, you have a 4-year tuition guarantee, which is amazing. However, you'll make your deposit before Scholars Day. So if Scholars Day is what you're hindering on making a decision, I always tell students to come talk to us because you'll be making your decision before then and whether or not you want to attend. But all students, if invited to Scholars Day, regardless of early decision or not, you are invited or eligible for Scholars Day. How long does the appeal process for financial aid package, I assume means take, Jeff?
And I'm assuming you receive your aid package and you've got some concerns and you're appealing for some additional money. Actually, we work very closely with the admissions office on those financial aid appeals. I think they're reviewed weekly, Austin, if I'm not mistaken. And then we try to get back to you with some sort of an answer or result on that appeal.
So for us, for the financial aid process, the biggest thing is make sure you do your FAFSA. So we can't give additional aid or additional scholarship without seeing what you'll get from the government per se. So a lot of students will say, hey, I have a scholarship of this, I need more money, but they won't do a FAFSA. So the first thing I'll say is always make sure you do your FAFSA and get a financial aid package before you ask for a financial aid appeal. How long does it take to receive an email to set up an application status page after submitting it? After you submit your application, you should receive an email from us to your student portal. So that student portal will be how you navigate your way through. You'll be getting paper acceptances from us, but we do a lot of our stuff electronically now, including the Scholars Day process. Are the trustee scholarships able to be combined with the merit-based scholarship? Great question. So the trustee scholarship supplants your merit-based scholarship. So if you have an $11,000 scholarship per year per se, and you get a $15,000 trustee scholarship, you would get a $4,000 a year addition to your current scholarship. So it's not in addition to the $11,000, it's $15,000 that will supplant it. Aiden asks, say I got accepted into a program at Daemen, does paying the $200 hold my position or is it held until I pay it? So one of the things I firmly believe in when it comes to admissions is that your seat is your seat until May 1st or until December 16th of your early decision. So you do not hold your seat by paying a deposit. By paying a deposit at Daemen, you're saying you're going to enroll at Daemen. We don't have a refundable deposit for that reason. So I know it's a stressful process for all families. I also know there's institutions out there that put their foot on your neck and say, make a decision in a week and a half or you lose your spot. I try to do everything we do in admissions that you have the amount of time given to you, whether that's December 16th or May 1st, to be able to make your final decision to secure your seat, regardless of what program you are. And I just answered Lisa's prior question of initial. So our tuition deposits are non-refundable because I don't want you to make a decision before you're 100% ready to commit to Daemen. The last thing I want to do is for you to make a decision saying you're coming, because once you submit that tuition deposit, think of it from our end. You're saying to us that you're coming to visit us. That seat is your seat that you just submitted your deposit for, and I'm not giving away your seat regardless. But if you submit a tuition deposit and you are just doing it to hold your seat, eventually if you decide not to come, you just took a seat away from another student. So I would encourage you to think of it that way when it comes to specifically to Daemen, is that your seat is your seat. Take all the time you need, but when you submit that deposit, that I really hope that you're sincerely, unless extraordinary circumstances happen, that you'd be attending Daemen. How do I apply for the available scholarship, specifically the sibling scholarship? That's a great point. So with the sibling scholarship, one of the things on our application, we asked if there's any siblings that are attending Daemen currently. And then also, if you, at any point If you don't put it on your application that your sibling attends here, please email your counselor so we can verify a sibling is in attendance here at Daemen. Any more questions, y'all? Jeff, can you talk? I got a question for you. Can you talk a little bit about the financial aid video that we send to students?
The
Or do you
video
want-
itself, yeah, well, either or could, it's, there's a lot of information wrapped up into it, but they'll receive a video outline of all of their financial aid eligibility. It's kind of a nice piece of information you receive in addition to the actual paper financial aid award letter. Gives you an idea of what you're going to owe, and basically goes over that detailed information. It's something new that we started last year.
Let's see. If I reject, I'm going down. This one's for you, Jeff. We received our financial aid package today. What is a DU grant?
The DU grant is our need-based Daemen University grant. It's basically determined by the financial aid office. It's a need-based grant, not merit-based. So you received additional money because you showed significant financial need. So you received an additional DU grant as a result of that.
Let's see. Just scrolling through. If I reject the early decision acceptance offer, can I still be considered for admissions later in the coming months? So I always like to say our early decision policy is a friendly early decision policy, and that it's binding on the deposit, not the acceptance. The only programs that will reconsider are for physician assistant and nursing ECC. However, when it comes to that, two programs, we haven't had a student who hasn't been admitted at a later date for that as well. My daughter applied for early decision PA program. How long will it take for her to hear back final answer if she got accepted? Also, will the parent or student get the acceptance email? So the student will get the acceptance email first, and then we will mail a letter that usually goes out 3 days later after that. Typically for those decisions for early decision, they should be coming out either right before or right after the Thanksgiving holiday. How long does it take to process FAFSA? Will we know approximately what we will owe before paying the early decision deposit?
So FAFSA typically takes 2 to 3 days to process. So after you submit it, 2 to 3 days later, we receive that electronic file. And again, we're checking to see if you're accepted to the institution at that point. If you are, we go right to packaging. So again, if you've done FAFSA recently, you should be receiving an aid package shortly.
As Jeff likes to say, he turns his machine on, and he turned his machine on this week. So he's probably going through all aid packages. So early decision is probably being prioritized right now. So you should be receiving a financial aid package sometime relatively soon if you applied early decision. Your DU grant does not need to be paid back. That is grant money, and it's not loan-based money or anything like that.
It's a Daemen institutional grant. It does not have to be paid back.
We received our acceptance and financial aid package. How do we know about the early decision deposit? How much, when returned? I would say, how do we know about the early decision deposit? I would say that should be right in your acceptance letter. So it's going to be, I believe it's $400 for an early decision deposit, tuition deposit. And when you would return it is December 16th. So it's about a month from now you have with your financial aid package. Feel free to talk to your admissions counselors, talk to financial aid, talk to me about if you have any questions regarding your the financial aid package. But if you've gotten your acceptance and financial aid package, December 16th is the deposit deadline for early decision. Well, I think we've exhausted our questions tonight, Jeff.
That's good.
If we update our FAFSA between semesters, will our financial aid change? As in, if I'm living at home for the spring semester but want to live on campus in the fall, can I do that?
Okay, that's a good question. When we package your aid initially, we're packaging for the full academic year, so both fall and spring semesters. But in a case like that where you're changing your housing status, yes, your financial aid could change. You don't necessarily have to update your FAFSA for that. You would just need to notify the financial aid office that I'm changing my housing status in the spring. How is that going to impact my financial aid? You can even meet with one of my financial aid counselors and we can talk about the impact even prior to you making those changes. So yeah, that's how we would handle that.
Jeff, this one I think is you. If a student's awarded a Say Yes scholarship in the spring, would they still need Stafford loans or would those be waived?
If you could Say Yes, basically your tuition is going to be covered with a combination of the Say Yes grant and any TAP or Pell eligibility. You still will see a student loan as part of your aid package. It's up to you if you want to take that or not. If you're commuting, you really wouldn't need that loan, but if you're living on campus, you may need to utilize some of that loan to help pay for some of your housing expenses.
I always forget this next one. Do you know off the top of your head what the tuition and fees are? Or do you want me to look them up?
No, I've got those. So our estimates for this upcoming year are $33,724. And if you're looking at room and board, you're looking at $13,940.
Can you repeat those two numbers? You kind of faded in when you went down.
I'm sorry. So tuition and fees, the estimate for 2023-24 is $33,724. And the room and board expense is at $13,940. And you will receive all of that information in your aid package also.
It's getting near bedtime, so if you hear a 3-year-old start screaming for me, I apologize, y'all. Any last questions before 7 o'clock? Well, as we await, I just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's if you're in the Western Newark area, we've all been bracing for a snowstorm that we've been telling about all week. And the Bills game got moved, so that's always interesting. So if you're in the Western New York area, I hope you stay safe. Hope you don't have to travel anywhere in the next few days. And if you haven't applied yet, feel free to apply anytime. Like I said, we're taking applications for all of our programs currently. If you haven't applied and you're interested in the physician assistant and nursing with a partner school ECC program, that deadline for our priority deadline is tomorrow. So what that means is that we'll take applications after tomorrow, but for full consideration to those two programs, that tomorrow is a deadline date for that. If you all other programs will take applications all the way through May, June, July. But I encourage you to apply sooner so you have full scholarship availability available to you. Sorry, I was speaking. I saw one last question come in. If FAFSA is updated in the next 2 weeks, will you resend the financial aid offer?
Absolutely. Whenever we receive a new processed FAFSA, and again, we receive those electronically, it's one of the first things we do every morning is draw those down. If it warrants a revised financial aid package, we will send you a new financial aid package. And I'd just like to add too, as we kind of wrap up here, I mean, the financial aid office is here to help assist you. Please reach out to us. You can contact us via email. If you're local, you can stop in anytime. We have an open door policy. You do not have to make an appointment.
Well, thank you. Oh, last question. Did you guys offer first-year generation scholarships? So while we don't offer a specific scholarship to first-generation students, we have a ton of scholarships that's geared towards first-generation students. And I'll give you an example, whether it's leadership grants, academic achievement grants, where you'll look at your entire application, what high schools you've gone to. So there's a lot of different things that we look at that go into a scholarship determination, but we don't have anything specific to first-generation scholarships. But we have a ton of programming here on campus for first-generation students, and also a lot of scholarship opportunities that a lot of first-generation students fall under. I appreciate the Daemen Pound hashtag at the end. Well, thanks y'all for joining us. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and hope to see your application soon. If you've already applied here, hope you have great decisions for you, and hope to see you in the fall 23.
Thank you. That's great.